Lady Franklin Bay became their world. Fort Conger, a small wooden shelter on the desolate edges of Ellesmere Island, was carved out of bitter winds and drifting ice. Inside, the men worked with scientific rigor. Atmospheric readings taken hourly, tidal measurements charted with mathematical precision, magnetic variations recorded for global research, wildlife patterns documented with almost artistic detail. Their data would later prove invaluable. But data could not warm frozen hands. Arctic winter fell like a hammer. 4 months of darkness, temperatures plunging below -60 degrees Fahrenheit, psychological strain tightening like a noose. Greeley enforced routine. Routine kept minds steady. Steady minds kept men alive. But routine could not stop the slow creeping fear. The resupply ship should have arrived by now. It didn't.
In 1882, political infighting in Washington delayed the resupply mission. By the time the Navy dispatched a ship northward, ice conditions had worsened. The captain turned back. He filed a brief report. Washington buried it. Greeley never received word. In 1883, a second mission failed catastrophically. The Proteus, the same ship that had brought them north, was crushed by pack ice, reduced to splinters in minutes. News reached newspapers, scandal brewed, politicians panicked. None dared admit the truth. The United States had lost control of the Arctic mission. So, they said nothing. Greeley's men waited. Their food dwindled. And still, nothing.
Greeley had orders. If resupply failed for 2 consecutive years, he was to abandon Fort Conger and march south to a backup supply depot. He obeyed. In 1883, with heavy hearts and lighter supplies, the men left the place they had built, the place that had sheltered them, the place that now felt eerily like a tomb. They sledged across jagged ice fields where even the wind seemed hostile. Morale cracked, rations thinned, arguments flared. But they kept going. They reached Cape Sabine. The depot was nearly empty. Someone, somewhere, had failed them. Winter seized Cape Sabine with merciless force. Food was scarce. Wildlife nearly non-existent. The men rationed with mathematical precision, Brainerd's doing. Daily portions shrank to starvation levels. They boiled seal bones. They chewed boot leather. They burned everything burnable. Men began to die. Greeley insisted that records continue. Science mattered, even now. But survival mattered more. As hunger hollowed out bodies, desperation hollowed out minds. One man stole food. Greeley ordered him executed. It was a moment that defined the expedition. Discipline was all that stood between them and chaos. Even in the darkest hours, the men respected Greeley's judgment. He remained their captain even as his own strength faded. Brainerd later wrote, "We obeyed him because he obeyed honor." By 1884, public outrage forced Congress to act. A massive rescue fleet launched northward. When they found Greeley's camp, the sight was beyond comprehension. Tents shredded, men skeletal, survivors delirious, journals preserved with desperate care. Out of only a few survivors, Greeley was barely alive. But he lived. America exploded with fascination and horror. Investigations followed. Accusations flew. The institution sought a scapegoat. They tried to blame Greeley. But the survivors refused. They told the truth. They defended their captain. Their loyalty, unbreakable, became the beating heart of the story. In time, the nation recognized the tragedy for what it was: a story of institutional arrogance, a story of political failure, a story of survival, a story of loyalty, a story of heroes.
Greeley lived to old age, honored by presidents and scientists alike. Brainerd became one of America's most respected Arctic veterans. The data collected at Fort Conger shaped global meteorology. And the story, now nearly forgotten, remains one of the most astonishing true epics in U.S. history.